if there are some corporate dudes out there who don't necessarily have the ability to get to the gym 5 days a week and really monitor their eating, how would you say effectively they can lean bulk? Because this is kind of the season where people start.
I mean, it doesn't really matter if you're going to the gym or working out at home, because the bulking aspect, people think bulking refers more to what they're doing in the gym, but it actually refers to what's going on in the kitchen. So it comes down to the numbers. And to actually gain size, gain mass, gain weight, you need to be in a caloric surplus. So you have to be following some sort of diet. It doesn't necessarily need to be a specific food diet, but mathematically speaking, you need to be at certain numbers in order to actually see growth. So you find your caloric maintenance, and then you make sure you're eating above that to actually gain. So for someone who's in the corporate world or working out at home, working out at the gym, wherever you're working out, it really comes down to the math behind your diet. And if you compensate a workout plan, a consistent workout plan, no matter how many days a week that is, if you're eating in that surplus, you will notice noticeable gain. And then the lean aspect, that's when it comes more into what exactly you're eating and then what exactly you're doing into the gym. So that's more of the fine-tuned detail work, but the overall mass development, you need to be in that caloric surplus.
So I'm currently doing a bulk because I reached like very lean levels, right? And I wanted to gain like over the next like 6 months, I want to gain like 10 pounds lean mass. Mm-hmm. And so one thing I'm trying to figure out is, and I'll monitor it like a psycho, right? Do I incorporate exercise into my calorie expenditure? So let's say it's a rest day, but I still walk for an hour. Do I subtract like 250 to 300 calories from my calorie levels? You know what I'm saying?
This is actually a question I've been getting a lot lately, and I've never actually talked about this topic, and I don't really find any information about this topic, so I'm glad you actually brought that up. No, you don't ever. For me, what I do specifically and what I recommend, don't ever take into account how many calories you're burning through your exercises, through your cardio, whatever you're doing. Don't take that into account with a diet, because what we're doing with our diet, if you calculate your caloric maintenance correctly, you're going to always have an activity factor that plays into that equation. So that activity factor is taken into account the general estimation of how many calories you're going to be burning through your exercise in general. That's why we have that activity factor, and it's multiplied in the equation to get your calories. So if you're taking more calories out of that from your exercise or your cardio, you're being counterproductive with what you're already doing with the equation by multiplying that activity factor. So it's already taken care of. You just gotta have to.
What if you have a day where like you're extra active? Wouldn't you take that into account?
No, not necessarily. I mean, it comes out to a weekly average. Each day is going to vary unless you're doing the exact same thing every single day, which is very unlikely for everyone's lifestyle. But like, that's why it doesn't really make too much of a difference in the end. If some days you're more active, some days you're less active, and you take the total week value, it will even out in the end, because like I said, you already have that activity factor taken into account.
Does that make sense, Miggity?
I got a good question on that. They say like when Michael Phelps was training, he could eat like thousands upon thousands of
12,000 calories.
Yeah, because his resting rate of burning calories was so high, and potentially from his like activity level being so high.
Exactly.
So
when your activity level's
too,
high, when your activity level's high, you are already going to be naturally burning more calories. You have an increased metabolism, and you have an afterburn effect from the exercise you're doing. So if you're upping your intensity levels like that through your training, you more than likely have a specific purpose of getting really cut, getting really lean, or just really increasing your muscular endurance and cardiovascular system. But overall, like the reason he can eat that much is because his activity factor is so high. So in theory, if he's properly using the equation, he would have multiplied for that activity factor, making his base metabolic rate, like how many calories he'd be expending naturally, already significantly higher. So that technically would be already accounted for by multiplying with the correct value.